Congress must restore the right that was taken away in Roe v. Wade and protect Roe v. Wade. Give every woman a constitutional right. The Vice President and I are doing everything to protect access to reproductive health care and safeguard patient safety. But already more than a dozen states are enforcing extreme abortion bans. Make no mistake about it. If Congress passes a national ban, I will veto it. But let's also pass the Bipartisan Equality Act to ensure LGBTQ Americans, especially transgender young people, can live with safety and dignity. Our strength is not just the example of our power, but the power of our example. Let's remember the world's watching.
Who's responsible for that? China is.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said on Wednesday that the United States shared information it obtained about China's spy balloon with dozens of countries around the world. Information the U.S. says demonstrates that it was not a weather balloon as Beijing has claimed, but an airship that was used for espionage.
We are getting more information almost by the hour as we continue to work to salvage the balloon. We're learning from that. And as well, we're learning from what we saw and picked up as the balloon traversed the United States.
The U.S. held the briefings in Washington and Beijing earlier this week about the balloon it shot down off the coast of South Carolina over the weekend and presented its findings to nearly 150 foreign diplomats across 40 nations. Blinken, who postponed a visit to China because of the incident, said Chinese spy balloons have flown over several other countries, too.
The United States was not the only target of this broader program, which has violated the sovereignty of countries across 5 continents.
At the news conference with Blinken was NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, who said the incident confirmed a pattern of behavior exhibited by China.
So we just have to be vigilant. We need to be aware of the constant risk of Chinese intelligence and then step up what we do to protect ourselves.
The Pentagon confirmed on Wednesday that 4 previous Chinese spy balloons flew over the U.S., but spokesman Brigadier General Patrick Ryder would not elaborate.
They over what you would call sensitive sites?
Again, I'm not going to... They were over sites that would be of interest to the Chinese, but I'm not going to go into the specifics, David.
The Pentagon said previous balloons flew over the U.S. at least 3 times during the administration of Donald Trump and 1 previously under President Joe Biden.
We know that they were looking to surveil strategic sites, to include some of our strategic bases in the continental United States.
Ryder said U.S. Navy ships were continuing to recover the remnants of the Chinese spy balloon, which one U.S. official said was 200 feet tall with a payload underneath that weighed a couple 1,000 pounds.
Last night I reported on the State of the Union. It is strong. It is strong.
U.S. President Joe Biden on Wednesday took his State of the Union message out on the road to Wisconsin, speaking to workers at a union training facility. His speech came less than 24 hours after addressing Congress in Washington.
Well, let's finish the job. There's more to do.
A speech that showed the Democrat ready to hold up his accomplishments and face down Republicans. The address was marked by raucous heckling and boos from hardline conservatives like Marjorie Taylor Greene and others.
Some of my Republican friends want to take the economy hostage. I get it, unless I agree to their economic plans. All of you at home should know what those plans are. Instead of making the wealthy pay their fair share, some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy of the proposal.
Biden on Wednesday continued to press his case against Republican proposals to cut social welfare programs.
My Republican friends they seem shocked. when I raised the plans of some of their members and their caucus to cut Social Security. And Marjorie Taylor Greene and others stood up and said, liar, liar. Look, a lot of Republicans, their dream is to cut Social Security and Medicare. Well, let me just say this. It's your dream, but I'm going to, my veto pen, make it a nightmare.
Dr. Jeffrey Engel, presidential historian from Southern Methodist University, told Reuters that Biden successfully took on the Republican hecklers.
I like the fact that he counter-jabbed against his dissenters, against the people who were heckling him. But most important of all, he had a theme. And I think that theme was actually, to my mind, we are the Democratic Party of FDR. We are, remember us, we're the New Deal. We're the people that stand up for the little guy against big corporations and against economic travails. And I think that is a winning message for the Democrats in this era in particular.
Biden's tour will focus on a handful of competitive states that his political aides believe will determine whether he can win a second four-year term. And it will test the endurance of the 80-year-old president, who spent much of the 2020 campaign with COVID precautions in mind, conducting events from his home in Wilmington, Delaware. Biden has indicated that he plans to run for re-election, and an announcement is expected in the coming weeks.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky landed in the United Kingdom on Wednesday, embraced by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak at the airfield. The two then sped to 10 Downing Street to set the tone for the visit.
Mr. Zelensky, do you want British fighter jets next?
Ukraine's desperate need for heavy weapons ahead of an expected Russian winter offensive.
It's a privilege to have you here, Volodymyr. We want to stand by you throughout this conflict and ensure that you're victorious.
Thank you so much, Richard, for inviting me.
It's a rare trip abroad for the Ukrainian leader in the midst of a war. Many expected Zelensky to flee for his life after Russian forces stormed into his country last year. But he remained in Kiev, a symbol of Ukrainian resistance, as his fighters first blunted Moscow's onslaught and then began to roll back the Russian advance. Zelensky is known to have left his country only once since the invasion, to visit Washington in an appeal for weapons and support. He's now in London for the same purpose. He spoke to the British Parliament, thanking them for providing Kiev with arms and training.
We know Russia will lose.
And he upped his request for hardware, seeking combat jets. The UK is already training Ukrainian pilots in advanced fighter aircraft, but London has not said whether or not they'd provide the planes along with the instruction. Zelensky toured a UK military base where Ukrainian soldiers were learning to operate British Challenger tanks. These are but some of the Western weapons in the pipeline. Germany, Denmark, and the Netherlands are planning to send more than 100 Leopard 1 tanks to Kyiv. Germany's defense minister on Wednesday said a battalion of more modern Leopard 2 tanks would go to Ukraine in the first 3 to 4 months of the year. Zelensky's visit to the UK, including a meeting with King Charles at Buckingham Palace, comes a day after ominous warnings from the battlefield. Ukraine's national security chief Alexei Danilov told reporters this week Russian forces were likely to attack in Zaporizhzhia in the south and possibly make a new push in the eastern Kharkiv region as well. Danilov said he expected Russia needed to show territorial gains as the one-year anniversary of what Moscow calls a special military operation approaches on February 24th, after a year of humiliating military setbacks. And while Danilov said Western tanks were helpful, the country faced a pressing shortage of ammunition, particularly 155mm shells, telling reporters, quote, "Because if you have weapons, but nothing to fire, then this is a challenge."
North Korea showed off more intercontinental ballistic missiles than ever before during a nighttime parade. That's according to state media KCNA on Thursday. It also hinted at a new solid fuel weapon, which has long been seen as a key goal for the country's weapons program. That could make its nuclear missiles harder to spot and destroy during a conflict. Leader Kim Jong-un attended the Wednesday parade with his daughter. She's seen as playing a possible future leadership role. KCNA said that the parade showed the North's greatest nuclear strike capability and that it also featured tactical nuclear units. Images from state media showed as many as 11 Hwasong-17s, North Korea's largest IBCM. They are suspected to have the range to strike nearly anywhere in the world with a nuclear warhead. North Korea has forged ahead with ballistic missile program, launching larger and more advanced missiles despite United Nations Security Council solutions and sanctions.